You would think that, the antidote for a snake bite is the venom of a snake. So that's the idea. You think you would throw yourself into more loving, coddling, nurturing, but you're not, because you have to find it within, and you're not going to find it within if somebody gives it to you your whole life. You'll actually grow up dependent.
Let me give Holly the formal introduction. Please sit back, relax. You're in for such a treat today, and also you're going to learn a lot. I always learn a lot when I talk to Holly, and but relax so you can just absorb and let yourself receive as much as is here for you. So I first met Holly. Shefali just texted me one day years and years ago. I guess it was before the first Evolve even, and just girlfriend to girlfriend, like, oh my gosh, I just had a reading done by someone, and you have to get a reading done by her. She's amazing. So Holly is an astrologer, and amongst many other things. And don't typically do that. I don't even know if I had ever done a reading, maybe like very, very sporadically. And but of course, your girlfriend says do something, and so I call you Holly, and you gave me a reading, and it blew me away. So by the end of today, I know all of you guys are going to be lining up to get a reading from Holly, but I've done many readings with you since then. You've done readings for Jamie and Will, and you're so much more than an astrologer. So I want to turn it over to you. And I guess my first question that I want to ask you is along those lines, like, what is it that got you into this? What lights you up about it? What are you passionate about? How are you so dang good at it? Like all the things, wherever you want to find yourself.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you a Reader's Digest version of how I got started in it. So I come from a long lineage of psychic on my mom's side, but when I was around 13, one of my mom's psychic friends, who was quite famous at the time, said that I was psychic as well too, and I was like, no. I was really a scientific, logical, practical, rational person, and I just couldn't see it. I didn't see any signs. I couldn't read tea leaves. I couldn't read tarot, which is what my mom did. And I had a lot of dreams. I had a ton of dreams. I realized in my 20s was not the norm. And then in my early 20s, I was literally saying this to a coworker. And the next day he came with a book, The Only Way to Learn Astrology by Miriam March and McIver. And it's a great book to learn. So I took it because I have a scientific mind. I'm not going to rebuttal it until I have read it myself. So I thought, okay, I'm going to humor you. I'll read it. I couldn't put the book down. I'm not a well-read person in that way. I don't like study books all the time at that time because I was 21. So I just finished school. I was done with that. And I couldn't believe how it worked. Like I used it, I'm going to age myself, but this was a time I had to draw up my own chart. It's a 2.5 page long division in order to draw up where all the planets are in the sky the day that you were born. And it just fascinated me. I did a reading for a young man in my neighbor. It actually freaked him out, and he was quite upset that I could be that accurate. He thought that maybe his mom told secrets to me, and then I stopped. I was like, oh no, this is not helping people. Then I really wanted to talk to people that were passed on. So I got into groups around that. I am able to get those messages once in a while, but not that often. And then next thing I know, in my early 30s, I started up with it again, and it was more well received at that time. In the meantime, I had just taken a few psychology courses and philosophy courses at our local university, and I started seeing more of the psychology and the psychiatry, the philosophy behind it. And then I ended up with my own radio station, which is an online radio station, which is where I met Dr. Shefali before she became a big hit on Oprah. And part of how I met her was because I interviewed her, and you guys can find that on my YouTube channel. And then she wanted a prediction about what was going to happen with her book because it was already submitted to Oprah. And I gave her the exact date of when it was going to happen and that she wouldn't even remember who anybody who I was after that. So that's what happened. It did happen with Oprah. And about 5 years later, after I'd reached out to her, probably about once a year, I'd reach out to her. She was busy, like obviously. Uh, and she accepted another reading from me, and then the rest is history. Like she endorsed me after that. During my course of doing more and more readings, I realized I was becoming remote. I was doing remote viewing and I was clairvoyant because I was seeing things that you don't see in astrology. I was visualizing people at people's workplace or what their uncle was like without even knowing their birth chart. I could
And is that what
describe what a
clairvoyance
boss
is?
looked like. What's that?
And is that what, can you explain to everyone exactly in case people don't exactly know what clairvoyance is?
Right. So clairvoyance is the ability to everything like see, hear, feel, and it's sort of all the clairs because there's clear audio, clear visual. Mine is I say clairvoyant because there's so many. It comes to me in all different ways. A lot of times it's a story, like a metaphor or a story in my head, and then I'll say, "Oh, for an example." And I'll use a metaphor and they'll be like, okay, that just happened to me, Holly, verbatim yesterday. And after hearing that a few times, I realized, okay, this is not source or some kind of energy is giving me messages. So to this day, it still blows me away. It still blows me away, the accuracy. I'm not sure where it comes from. I just call it source energy. Uh, it comes through conversation usually with people or doing mini readings with people. And yeah, like I said, to this day, the accuracy still blows me away. Remote viewing, you can do some research. There's a lot of science behind that. The CIA, the FBI has trained agents to do remote viewing. And that's when you can see something that is somewhere else. So if somebody says, I lost my car was stolen, where is it? I might start to be able to see a building or the location, etc. But my remote viewing is more around my clients. So for instance, I had a client that was difficulty at work, and without giving out too much information, I basically described word for word what her in difficult employer looked like, what he wore, what his office looked like, his demeanor, and that yeah, that blew her away too. She goes, "Oh my God, that's exactly what he wears and what he looks like and what he does." And it's just enough for me when I get those messages, like, why do I care what this person wears or what they look like? But it's validation from source that the message I received is valuable for that client, that that client may want to, listen to it a little closer.
So I also want to say, not to interrupt you, but if you guys have questions for Holly as we go, we definitely wanted this to be interactive. And so Howie is asking, are we able to do remote readings from you?
No, I can't really do that at will. It comes through conversation with
Mm,
people. So they
interesting.
can when they have a reading with me, but like just to do it here one off, it wouldn't work that way.
Interesting.
Even when I do my free readings, which I do on TikTok and YouTube, once in a while, I refrain from doing remote viewing on demand.
And maybe you could share when how you work with your clients, because I
Yeah.
definitely find working with you something that makes you unique, at least in my perception and my eyes, is that what you were speaking about, your interest in science, your interest in psychology, you are extremely for as tuned in as you are to energy, you are that grounded as well. And I love that you can pull in science and psychology and you have an understanding of us in relationships. And so maybe you could just share with someone how you work with clients, and or the parts of working. Do you love working with relationships or career, or like what lights you up? How do you work?
Yeah, I'll answer that backwards. What really lights me up is working with clients to understand their interpersonal relationship as parents or with their own parents. Obviously, since I was endorsed by Dr. Shefali and yourself too, there's a lot of people asking about their children, the relationship. Why is it? What's a destiny? What's a mission? Why did I have a child like this? Why did I, as a child, choose the parents that I have as an adult child? I work with a lot of adults that have difficulties with their parents, their culture. There's a huge cultural dynamic that I have received as well that's being shifted in the last few decades. There's generational trauma that's being shifted in the last few decades. We're really blessed to be born in a lifetime where we can address those things openly and vulnerably without and look at what our triggers are. So I love working with clients. I have actually helped, or my work, anyways, has helped clients like mothers get along with daughters again and sons get along with mothers again because they see them as human beings and not as these icons of what they thought a parent should be. And then in turn, if they have children, it changes their relationship with their children. I love working with people trying to figure out what their career or their business is because we kind of intertwine. There's two things. We intertwine our destiny with our children vicariously. We
Mm,
could do that. And then we also our destiny around our career. So that's why a lot of people are looking for, I don't feel passion. It's not about the paycheck anymore. We're kind of at the crossroads where it is about the paycheck because we want to maintain our standard of living, but it's also around this isn't fulfilling for me. How can I have both? And I'm testimony to that. Before I've had a myriad of jobs throughout my life. I've never just had one job. I've had many, many hats, specifically it's almost like a serial entrepreneur, as somebody called me once. And as soon as I really dove into astrology and took it very seriously with my radio station that I had and the self-help and then my clairvoyance and whatnot, the world just opened up to me organically. Everything just happened. The Dr. Shefali endorsement with you, in other areas I've been endorsed and as well. And it just became really easy for me. And financially, it's fine. It's more than fine. So I find that one with my clients, that fear. Like I had a client as an example who worked for a big marketing firm and she wanted to go on her own and she was struggling with the marketing firm with their policies, etc. It took me about a year and a half working with her to get her to go out on her own. And I told her, you will be busier. They will find you. She had a lot of ethics around it. I can't take clients from this company. And she's a single mom. So this was not an easy decision to make. She makes more money and is busier and she's been doing it for 4 years now than she ever was before because this was her passion to do it the way she wanted to do it. And I can give you countless of stories of when people found their passion through their career or volunteering or through your children, where the success rate is very, very high.
mm.
It's not as scary as some people might think, but they need reminders, you know?
Yeah, that's what I think in doing readings with you. One of the things, as we're talking right now, it's giving me the opportunity to kind of look back over the years of readings that I've had with you.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm recognizing and why I really love how you work, I can feel the sincerity of you that is always a hungry student. I can feel that you're always, every time I talk to you or read one of your newsletters, or you're always you remind me of me because I'm kind of like a voracious student. Like
Yeah.
I just love learning more and more and more about healing and transformation, and that's how you are. So you're not in a box. You're constantly expanding. And as I look at our, some of the readings over the years, I can track it. At the beginning, I was in a pretty big learning curve myself with a lot of healing and transformation around my relationship with my mom. And
Yeah.
over the time now, I'm in this really, I want to call it like a free chapter. I don't know a better name, but it's just, I feel content and like being of service and being a vessel. And when I look back at our readings, everything that you said to me always lines up with the chapter that I feel like I'm in, you know? So, if anybody has any questions, please don't let me just be the only one asking Holly questions. If you have questions, if you even were thinking about doing like a reading or something, what is it? I would love to hear. What are you guys interested in? What would you even be interested in getting a reading about? You know, mine, I think at the beginning was about my relationship with my mom. I really had done so much healing around my relationship with my mom. But what you gave me was like a larger context from the soul level, so to speak, of what you referenced before, why I chose her, how it's really fed my passion to have had her as a mom, and now the gifts I've gotten from it.
Yes.
So,
Do
let
you remember how you felt when I said that you chose your mother? You chose to
well,
be your
yeah,
mother's daughter?
I do. I have felt that for many, many years. Like I've always believed that. I was very fortunate to have been raised by, I was raised Jewish by a very mystical rabbi who was not in the confines of the dogma of Judaism, but in the Kabbalah and in the mystical. So I always felt like I chose my mom. I believed that intellectually, but
Good.
what I didn't have, but I believed that, and I do believe that. But what I still had back at the time was still a lot of angst and pain and hurt. And I hadn't, what you helped me do was see how the angst and the pain, even though I knew something different intellectually, I was still carrying that trauma in my body. How
Hmm.
how that feeling of disconnection that I felt from her was actually feeding my whole career work.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I think what I'm really good at is assisting people to heal their past traumas and to be
Yes, you are. Yeah.
emotionally connected both within yourself and with those around you. And I couldn't do that unless I went in my own life from feeling emotionally disconnected from my mom
Hmm.
to feeling very emotionally connected within myself.
Yeah.
And you, that back in the day when I first started having when I first had a reading with you, I really started to realize, oh, this is more than an intellectual understanding of we choose our parents. There was a whole neurobiology around it. And,
Yeah.
and I see how, oh my gosh, I've broken generations of maternal pain, really. And I
Yeah.
won't go into the whole thing, but yeah, that it just gave me a larger context working with you for sure.
Yeah, I find that what I love about astrology is when I look at somebody's chart, I might look at yours, I might look at your husband's,
Mhm.
your children, your parents, your coworkers. I see their personality. I see the whole breakdown of their multitude of personality traits and how it's affecting you. Sometimes we just have personality differences, and I'll see a parent that their personalities and how they deal with life and how they navigate through life is very different than the way their child does.
Mhm.
And to push your child to be something that they're not can be is what's causing the conflict. And so for instance, and I have a client like this where the child is very introverted and is quite happy with their own time and very picky about friends and only single friends are going to have at a certain time. And the mother is very outgoing and vivacious and party and let's, collect, working with community. And she's constantly trying to drag her child out. She goes, how is she going to be when she grows up? She'll just be a loner. Like, but she doesn't care. She's okay with being a loner. That and that they're constantly at battle because and so once she understood that, then she let down the guard. And her fear was that she was going to be an antisocial person when she grew up. But it is a so then I had to walk through, her chart and say, where's your fear? coming from, that you put yourself in social environments all the time, etc. So this is what I love about working with the child parent dynamic, because we do choose our parents to learn. So for instance, if you have a parent who's not nurturing, not caring, not loving, not soft, I might look at their chart and go, wow, there's a lot of air and fire, for instance. So this is a go-getter, feisty, unpredictable, in her head, constantly thinking and analyzing and questioning kind of parent, not a nurturing parent. The way she cares is by telling you how to do stuff rather than saying, oh, you poor thing, you can't do this, which is fine. So if you wanted to be born in this lifetime to learn to be more emotionally independent, you will not choose a parent that will coddle you and nurture you on
Yeah,
purpose.
yeah, I think that's true. Um, my mom, loved me in the ways that she loved me, not in the
Mhm.
so what you're saying is very, very accurate. And I remember you told me at the beginning I come from, I think you had said 8 generations of women who had gone through a lot of hardship from the Holocaust to, and what the women in my maternal lineage had learned was this unbelievable persistence and strength, tenaciousness, um,
Mhm.
real ultimate high achievers because they either lived through something like a Holocaust or, and it assisted me to shift my mindset from what I was missing or what I thought I was missing,
Yeah.
her that softness, to recognizing also that I had dismissed a lot of strengths within myself because I'm also very tenacious and strong, and I have a strong will and
Independent.
advocacy and
Yeah.
passion, and I have a strong masculine side as well. And
Yeah.
because I was looking through a filter of what I didn't get, I was also missing a lot of my own qualities. And so, again, I really appreciate the way you work because that is very similar to conscious parenting, which is what was it in me
Yeah.
that needed that, So,
Yeah.
how can we work with Holly? So I just put on here, Holly, any questions before we close? Because I really want
Yeah.
everyone, I wanted this to be everyone leaves here having your questions answered. And so this is the perfect. How can we, ooh, that's a great one, Karina. I'll ask that in a second.
That's one of my favorite topics.
Yes, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
good one, Karina.
Yeah,
So
we're not
the
going to leave
abandonment,
without that
I
one
think I know
because
who Karina is too.
yeah, and I always felt abandoned by my mom
Yeah.
because I didn't
Yeah.
feel that connection. So I can't wait for you to answer that. And also after, we'll do the same thing you just did. We'll answer them in reverse, and then you can tell everyone how they can work with you. But
Okay, great. Thank you.
dive into, I love this question too.
I love the topic of abandonment because I see it right away. When I look at somebody's chart, I look at Neptune, I look at the 12th house, and I can see where there's abandonment and who it's with. Is it mom, with your dad? It's kind of where I start when I see it in a chart. I can even see somebody who went through abandonment, but they handled it better than what most people would, probably because they've done some work previous to this. And I was an abandoned, I had abandonment. I was in denial. I took a whole course on abandonment triggers. And in my case, I'm really fortunate because there is abandonment in our family. It goes through lineage and lineage with my mother and my mother's mother, etc. I won't go into that. And even it's affected my own daughter. And my mother let me go 12 years ago, and it was her choice. And I let her make that choice and honored that choice and totally understood it because of her childhood. She went through so much pain and I'm fine with it. But this is very unusual. I don't have a regret. I'm not angry with her. I'm not mad at her. I still love her. And I honor the choice that she made. We want to get to that place when we find the trigger of what is abandonment for you, and you want to nurture that within yourself. So if the abandonment was my mother never listened to me, she doesn't have any patience, she cuts me off, then your abandonment trigger is my voice isn't being heard. Then finding a way outside of your relationship with your mother to make your voice heard, whether you become a teacher or a writer or you're an advocate, Make sure that you don't put that on your own children, though, because your children may also exhibit those behaviors. They may not have patience for long-winded stories or long conversations. And so if you force your child to be the person who listens to you, that could be challenging. But of course, you can have a reading with me to find out if that's what it is. But first, finding out like the deep abandonment wound and then working on that. Now,
Mm.
astrologically or karmically, I believe we have the abandonment. We choose to have an abandonment wound for a couple of different reasons. One is that our history as a soul has gone through a lot of lifetimes where there was abandonment or being isolated or segregated from society for one way or another. And you really want to overcome that in this lifetime. You would think that, the antidote for a snake bite is the venom of a snake. So that's the idea. You think you would throw yourself into more loving, coddling, nurturing, but you're not, because you have to find it within, and you're not going to find it within if somebody gives it to you your whole life. You'll actually grow up dependent on that, and then life comes at you. You're going to have abandonment wounds hit when you're older, and you'll be like, you'll crumble. You fall apart. You won't be able to handle it, right? And then the other is on a collective. We're also here to create a dynamic in the collective. So we have, 8 billion people on the planet, and we're all shifting through karma as well together. So some of this we have to work on to support the collective
Yeah.
at the same time. I find that.
Yeah.
And once you understand what your abandonment wound is, then you gotta dedicate a practice to the day you die of
Yeah.
how you're going to just be aware of it and find it from within.
Yep.
The more that you struggle to find it outside of you, the more you're going to struggle. And you're going to do it. I still do it. I still get, uh, fear of missing out, FOMO, when I'm not invited to. Just last week, to a bunch of my cousins got together 4 hours away. I wasn't invited. It triggered me for about 24 hours. Then I got over it, but I sat with it. I sat with it and went, okay, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
Deeply. And I knew exactly where it was coming from.
Yeah. And not only where it's coming from, I think that's essential. That's the first step to give us awareness, but you're definitely speaking my language because I feel like to some degree, you mentioned the collective, and it's one of the things I love about you is that you're also very tuned into the collective and what we're learning about as women,
Women.
where we've come from as women, where we're going to. You speak to that very eloquently and astutely. And I think around abandonment, I think that we live in such a culture where from the time we're born, we live in such an externalized culture. Look outside, look outside, look outside, to the detriment of our own inner connection and inner belonging. So that's where I find such passion to just help people, like, what does that look like to really feel like you've gone from that feeling of abandonment and disconnection to, like, when you said you will practice this every day for the rest of your life. That
Yeah.
is true for me. To practice
Yeah.
your own inner belonging is such an art and such a beautiful life practice. So anybody that is interested in that neighborhood of work, that would be a great thing to dive in.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's important, that collectively we're imbalanced with the masculine and feminine energy. And collectively, generation after generation, we're trying to put that back into balance again.
mhm. Um, Milana is asking, do we need to be with you in person? So I can answer that. Not at all. I think we've done most of ours either on Zoom or phone, and then you send a recording. So
Yeah.
that's cool. You can go back and listen to the recording, which I never do, but you can, because I'm like always taking notes. I can
Well, the
even,
mini readings, you just ask me a question and I send it to you in a recording. I don't even talk to you or see you.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Deborah's saying, my heart goes out to you. I feel you, sister. She says she feels like we're both talking about her personally because we're like, got the abandonment, the mother thing. So it's just that the three of us happen to be connected. I can tell you, Holly talks about many, many, many different things, but don't be
Oh
afraid
my
of
gosh, I can
asking
talk
her
about
questions.
health issues. I can take a
Exactly.
look at, yeah, it's insane
You
what I
know,
can see.
yeah, also female empowerment. You do a lot of career work for people, that kind of thing to empower us as women,
Around career. Yeah.
step into our power as women in career. Oh,
Um, yes. So AskHollyHall.com. So ASK, basically ask me any question. I'll find the answer. HollyHall, HALL.com. And that's my tag for everything. Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Those are the ones I'm more active on, is Ask Holly Hall as well. And Holly at Ask Holly Hall is my .com is my email. But if you go to my website, all of my information is there.
and I think you talked about also very generously offering the Lumi sisters.
Oh,
So
yes.
should they choose
Your
to?
link is misspelled, so we might want
Oh,
to.
I sent I misspelled it. Oh, I did. Sorry,
You
sorry,
made
guys.
me a
Don't write
hoolie.
that down.
I'm a
Don't.
hoolie. I'm a hooligan.
I'm a big person. I love giving my girlfriends and family members experience gifts. So if there's someone you know in your life, another sister, a friend who's interested in this, it's also a great gift to give someone a real experience. So appreciate your
Yeah.
generosity
I
so
like to think
much.
myself as a life coach that uses a whole bunch of other modalities, including astrology.
I
That's how I
think
look
that's a
at it.
really great way to define yourself because that's
Mhm.
how I see you. You
Yeah.
are at the core, you're a life coach and
Yeah.
you use these different modalities, one of the strongest being astrology as a foundational aspect,
Yeah.
but you have many
That's the
different
unique part of it.
modalities. So
Yeah.
exactly. So, well,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
I always love talking to you. Um, so we'll have you back.
I do. We're going
And
to talk to you soon, anyways,
yes,
one on one.
yes,
Okay,
yes, yes,
friend.
yes.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, everyone's saying they're sending healing vibes. Oh, to Howie, maybe I missed something. Hang on.
I put it in there correctly. You eventually put it in there correctly, so it's all
No,
good.
I missed a question. So for anyone
Oh,
who needs to leave, you can watch this in the replay, but if you can stay one more moment, Holly, I missed a question. So I just want to make sure. Howie said her son is hospitalized for the second time and she's struggling. I need to believe more. So is there any, Howie, I don't know if you were saying that just so we could send you light or if that was anything specific for Holly.
the
But
hardest thing is to understand your child's got their own journey. That's the hardest, difficult thing to understand. And I've had to understand that even with my own daughter, who struggled with a lot of health issues and mental health issues, very serious in her teen years, and still does as an adult child, is that they have their own journey. And sometimes that's really hard. That's the only advice I could give. Unless I was looking at your chart and your child's chart, I could definitely look at other things. I can see when somebody has allergies, ailments. I'm not a medical professional, but I can see through medical astrology those issues as well. But sometimes just understanding what their journey is a
yeah,
start.
I would really second that. So I hope that's helpful to you, um, Howie, because I know even when my son Will is going through any kind of challenge, not any kind of challenge, there are some challenges he goes through, and I am just able to hold a space, see him as his own entity, his own soul. And then there are certain ones where it's either very draining for me or I get sucked in. And what you're saying is so true when I can recognize that he's on his own journey. And the reason I get sucked in are because of things I still need to heal. Like if he's going through a social issue, and let's say, like what you were saying, let's say he's not getting invited to something, then I can get sucked in with my own social issues of like, but I want everybody to get along, and but when I can, like you're saying, really recognize he's on his own soul path, and it's actually very important for him on his soul path to be going through whatever he's going through, it puts me in a more empowered space I'm a different mom walking next to him. I'm literally different
Mhm,
walking
mhm.
when I can do what you're saying. So maybe there's something
And
more for you
if
there.
if I may just say quickly, Howie, I did get a message immediately as well, is that somehow your son's journey is a part of your journey in this particular case. That something that's happening with your son, which may be based on nutrition. Again, I'm not a medical professional, that you through this journey together, you will be a facilitator for other people to help them through a similar journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that cannot be underestimated, overestimated. I can just speak from my own experience. When I see it that way, I really put myself in a different position to walk through him walk with him through.
That's a good word. Yeah.
Yes, and it changes both of our dynamics. I can even
Mm-hmm.
feel the way he comes to me is different. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a really great distinction. And it's easy, I always say very humbly, it's easy for us to just sit there and go, oh, well, he's on his own. It's so easy to say it, and it's very, very different to
Oh yeah. No, can't
untangle the
imagine.
layers. But in
Yeah.
sessions, that untangling can happen. So we're sending you lots of love.
Tons of love.
Yeah,
Yeah. Good
yeah,
energy.
yeah. All right,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Well, we'll see you all next week. Dr. Shafali will be back, and many of you can reach out to Holly and take advantage of her very generous Lumi 30 code. And you can come back and tell us how it was, and we will have you on again. Beautiful,
Thank
beautiful
you.
Holly.
I look forward to it.
All right. Much love, everyone. Have a great week. See you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.